Hello everyone, and welcome to today's Making Cities Resilient 2030 series next webinar discussion, which will focus on engaging academia and faith actors in the process of strengthening cities' resilience to climate change and disasters. My name is Armen Rostomyan, and I am AIT RRCAP consultant, and today I will be moderating this webinar. We have with us today 8 distinguished speakers at the webinar from the UN Office of Disaster Risk Reduction, UN Environment Programme, World Vision, the Educational Partnership for Innovation in Communities Network, EPICNet, and 2 fellows of KAICIT International Centers. This webinar will start with a keynote address made by AIT RRCAP Director, followed by presentations from 8 distinguished speakers, 10 minutes each. Then we will have 5 minutes for question and answer sessions. If you have any questions to our speakers, please kindly post them in the question and answer section, and I will be directing your questions, which I will find in the Q&A box to a relevant speaker, that they will answer to your questions. At the end of the workshop, we will share with you the link the link with the evaluation form, and I would kindly ask you to complete it. It will take 2 minutes of your time to complete it, and I would highly appreciate if you complete it before you leave the webinar. Now, to start the session and to set the scene, please allow me to make a brief outline of the webinar purpose and key content focus areas. The 2030 agenda, comprising of the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction 2015-2030, Paris Climate Agreement, 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and Sustainable Development Goals, New Urban Agenda, Habitat 3, and Outcomes of the World Humanitarian Summit clearly set the imperative for change across the world. A key element to achieve a 2030 Agenda is the effective reduction of climate and disaster risks. But this can only be attained through an all-of-society approach. Whilst governments remain responsible for integrating disaster risk reduction in core social, economic, and development planning, this also requires a change of behavior across all sectors and levels. The notion of inclusiveness, greater stakeholder engagement in planning processes, implementation, and monitoring and collaborative actions is also reflected in the ongoing UN reforms, which include strong call for new partnerships between the United Nations and stakeholders at large. This webinar was specifically designed to focus on approaches, methodologies, and for sharing best practices on how governments and UN agencies can effectively engage academia, local universities, and faith actors in implementing Sendai Framework and Paris Agreements at cities and communities level. It is well-known fact that the role of academia and universities spans through all phases of disaster management cycle. Universities play a particularly essential role during the impact, emergency phase, risk reduction strategies, preparedness, and mitigation. The roles of universities in disaster management process include provision of disaster education, relief and support to the affected community, and to grasp the situation from a research perspective. Universities also has a role in educating, developing scenarios, and providing basic and advanced training to the enthusiastic volunteers. Furthermore, by establishing coalitions, it becomes more possible for the university to do research suited to the needs of particular city or particular community. The role of faith actors is also crucial in strengthening cities' resilience to climate change and disasters, especially in conflict-affected countries. You will hear a lot the term of faith actors during today's workshop. Faith actors is one of target audiences that will be that is comprised of following 2 categories. So when we speak about faith actors, we mean faith-based organizations and religious leaders of different faiths at different levels. I want to share with you some statistical information on the importance of engaging faith actors. According to the Pew Research Center, worldwide, more than 8 out of 10 people, it's about 80% of the global population, identify themselves with a religious group. There are 5.8 billion religiously affiliated adults and children around the globe, representing 84% of world population of 6.9 billion. This is a statistics of 2012. The growth of religious adherence will continue. According again to the same Pew Research Center projections, by 2040, this number will reach 7.1 billion, and by 2050 to 7.5 billion adherents. I will share with you a little bit later the links to this statistical information in the Pew Research Center that you can check it. You may also know that some of the world's largest development and humanitarian NGOs are faith-based. In number of international fora, high-level UN officials, such as Mr. Antonio Guterres, UN Secretary General, mentions, like in his 2017 speech, that there is a need for humanitarian actors to deepen their understanding of religious traditions across faiths and become more faith literate. We need to be more inclusive and consult national faith actors already at the planning stage to harness the full potential of the strengths they bring to complement our own approaches. Another quotation I want to bring is from UN Assistant Secretary General, Dr. Amina Mohammed, who in number of international fora repeatedly emphasized in her speeches the importance of engaging faith actors in climate change and local level resilience strengthening efforts. In 2010, UN Interagency Task Force on Religion and Sustainable Development was established. This task force comprised of 18 UN member agencies and aimed to serve as a platform for knowledge exchange and management capacity building, system-wide guidance, and oversight regarding engagement with faith-based inspired civil society actors. There is a growing awareness of the role of religious leaders and faith-based organizations in climate change and disaster preparedness and response. Many faith actors hold a high degree of trust and influence in their communities. They have a unique network for information dissemination and access to hard-to-reach areas. Numerical examples and case studies from countries from all regions globally inform the models of how faith actors are engaged and how they contributed to climate change, disaster management. And when we speak about disaster management, we mean both natural and man-made types of disasters and humanitarian efforts. And examples in some countries before disaster, before disaster stage, faith actors have established disaster communities to represent a broad array of perspectives, creating awareness among the community on how they can prepare and mitigate the effects of crisis. They conducted risk assessments of hazards. They developed contingency plans and encourage households to develop their own plans. During the disasters, faith actors contributed to distributions, providing shelter and mobilizing volunteers, finances, skills, and unskilled labor within their congregations. Following disasters, after disasters, they have provided psychological support and counseling, supported rebuilding, and conducted training on mitigation. A recent research study on the role of faith actors during the Ebola crisis noted that faith actors were among the first responders and so were able to mobilize communities, raise funds, and buy materials such as buckets, water, and soap that help lessen the spread of disease. Leaving you with this information to reflect and to set the scene for today's workshop, now I would like to stop and I would like to invite Dr. Naoya Tsukamoto, Director of AIT RRCAP, to open the webinar and deliver a short welcome speech.
Thank you, Armen.
Before Dr. Naoya Tsukamoto starts, I want to Mentioned that Dr. Tsukamoto is Director of Regional Resource Center for Asia and Pacific at the Asian Institute of Technology. In his professional career, he has served as Senior Environment Engineer for the World Bank. He was head of Japanese delegation to the IPCC AR4, Vice Chair and the Board Member of the Adaptation Fund Board, Member of Adaptation Committee of UNFCCC, Secretary General, Principal Researcher for the Institute for Global Environmental Strategies, and Project Director on the United Nations University Institute for Advanced Study of Sustainability. Dr. Tsukamoto, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Armen, and thank you very much for your introduction of me. Good morning and good afternoon, dear distinguished participants, partners, ladies and gentlemen. Natural disaster is no more natural, but is artificial, heavily influenced by the climate change that are caused by human activities. Each of you, community, city, country, or sub-region are now experiencing so-called historical, record-breaking, never experienced climate incidences that cause serious negative impacts to our lives and livings. All the creatures on the earth are now living in an environment of harsh and severe climate that are apparently different from the one with the gentle and stable climate. Because of this breaking change, we cannot fully rely on our traditional knowledge, experiences, accumulated knowledge that are based on the past stable climate. We need to strengthen our resilience in a different manner than before. This is an urgent challenge for human beings and need more innovative solutions and more investments. This webinar on Making Cities Resilient 2030, engaging academia and faith actors to strengthen city resilience to climate change and disasters, is a contribution of RRCAP to this agenda. I would like to thank their close collaboration and our key partners, United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction, United Nations Environment Program, World Vision, EPICNet. I also thank to the Ministry of the Environment of Japan for its kind support to this webinar. Please let me briefly introduce our center, the Regional Resource Center for the Asia and the Pacific. This center was established 31 years ago as a joint initiative of both AIT and UN Environment. The RRCAP aims to bridge the gap between the scientific understanding of sustainable development processes and sound policies and national and regional levels. Acting as a science policy platform through regional networking, RRCAP has been providing capacity building, knowledge sharing, and policy development support for our stakeholders in the Asia-Pacific region to achieve sustainable development from the environmental aspect. Please visit our website for further information. Coming back to the theme of this webinar, I hope that this webinar will provide a good opportunity for all of us to share information, best practices, successful methodologies, and new approaches to achieve more effective engagement of academia, faith actors in cities, and other various stakeholders towards better city resilience. I warmly welcome you to this webinar. Thank you very much for your attention.
Muted, Armen.
Oh, okay, sorry. I would like to thank Naoya-san for a warm welcome speech and outlining importance of greater engagement and contribution of faith actors and academia in strengthening cities and communities' resilience of climate change and disasters. Now, it is a pleasure for me to give a floor to our keynote speaker, Dr. Sanjaya Bhatia. Dr. Bhatia is the head of the Office for Northeast Asia and Global Education and Training Institute for Disaster Risk Reduction in Incheon, which is based in the Republic of Korea, where he has guided and trained over 10,000 government officials globally. Before taking this position, Dr. Bhatia worked as a head of the International Recovery Platform, IRP, Secretariat at Kobe, Japan, where he led the development of the guidance note on recovery and the capacity building program for national and local governments. Earlier, as the focal point, disaster resilient schools and hospitals with the Global Facility for Disaster Reduction and Recovery of the World Bank. He was instrumental in financing of projects on safe schools and hospitals, mainstreaming disaster risk reduction into health and educational sectors, and he was engaged in development of the guidance note on safer school construction and guidance note on integrating disaster risk reduction in health sector projects. He has worked with the government of India, Indian Administrative Service, the World Bank, and the United Nations in the field of disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation for over 30 years. The floor is yours, Dr. Bhatia.
Thank you very much, Armen, and let me thank the organizers for this opportunity. It is a great pleasure to be with all of you and the participants today. So, as Armen introduced already, we are based in Incheon in South Korea. We provide training with a focus on local governments around the world, and that's why for today's session, it makes sense for us to have an opportunity to address you. But we are also the Global Secretariat for a multi-stakeholder partnership and initiative, global initiative, which is known as the Making Cities Resilient 2030, which aims at supporting implementation to reduce climate and disaster risks by local governments. So I'll briefly talk about that later. But first, let me point that as we continue to grapple with COVID-19, it is important to remind ourselves that climate change still remains the great risk driver. Over the past 30 years, 90% of all disasters have been related to climate change and extreme weather. And climate change is generating more powerful storms, more coastal flooding, more heat waves, more droughts, and more water shortages around the world. And most of these impacts are felt in cities. Cities meaning cities, towns, municipalities. This is where the impact is felt. As urban areas face up to this escalating exposure, they continue to wrestle with the host of unaddressed vulnerabilities. The result is a series of interrelated bad outcomes where all these, the vulnerability, the climate impacts, and the disaster impacts, they all interact, along with the increased poverty, causing gender-based violence and even displacement. So at this juncture, if we pause and reflect, we also see an opportunity along with this challenging context. So we all know that if we do more before hazards strike, then fewer people die, fewer people are hampered in their lives and their livelihoods. Homes remain dry and standing, roads stay clear, bridges remain standing. So in other words, the more the cities can do now in terms of resilience, the less they will suffer and the less they will pay in the future. How can we do this? So to achieve this, we need to apply multi-stakeholder engagement, and especially apply this when we are trying to look at the implementation of the Sendai Framework, which is the global framework for disaster risk reduction, but also in coherent implementation with the Paris Agreement for climate and the Agenda 2030, which is for the Sustainable Development Goals. So for all three global agenda, what we need is this multi-stakeholder engagement. So And when we come down to the city level, there are 3 points which I would like to emphasize. Firstly, the cities need to, and we need to help the cities. So we, when I say we, I mean all the stakeholders, be it universities, faith-based groups, scientists, research organizations, and so on. So we need to scale up support for cities to increase their capacity to engage with all the stakeholders and to get the support of these stakeholders to support them or help them in the implementation of resilience actions. Secondly, we need to scale up support for cities to develop their own project pipelines and their ability to access and manage finance. And thirdly, we need to scale up support for cities to broker and manage genuine and durable partnerships to enable resilience actions. Now, when we say partnerships, again, what we are talking about is these stakeholder groups, the multiple stakeholders. Cities need to establish the partnerships, and the stakeholders also need to reach out and find and establish these partnerships with the cities. The experience of COVID-19 has revalidated the fact that there is no better formula for development cooperation than national and international partners and the other stakeholders working with and through local leadership. What it supports is local solutions leading to local impact, and that's what we need in the future. So I mentioned in the beginning, one such partnership which promotes this multi-stakeholder engagement is the Making Cities Resilient 2030, which we call MCR 2030. Now, this is a long-term multi-stakeholder inclusive partnership that supports cities to identify and own their vision of disaster resilience. So not telling the city what to do, but allowing the city to understand where their gaps are, what are their weak areas, what they need to strengthen, and to develop their own vision of resilience. It aims to leave no city behind or alone. It is a partnership that is growing increasingly attractive to a range of local governments. So today, for example, and this number changes day by day, but today 560 cities are members of the MCR 2030, covering a population of about 420 million urban population around the world. And there is a great variety. So from the prefecture of Olympia in Sao Paulo, Brazil, with a population of 54,000. We also have the city of Arua in Uganda with a population of 360,000. And then we have the city of Khartoum in Sudan with a population of more than 8 million. So there's a big range and diversity and good opportunity for multi-stakeholder engagement. There is an online tool which we call the dashboard, which provides a marketplace for these cities to access knowledge, experience, networks, tools, resources, and services provided by, again, a wide range of stakeholders, including development partners, including the private sector, including universities, and including faith-based groups. And I encourage all the partners and the stakeholders who are watching today's session and participating in today's session to go on to MCR 2030 and sign up as a stakeholder so that you can engage with this growing number of cities. The current services which are available include technical support for climate scenario planning, for green bonds, for revision of building codes, for the integration of health hazards into risk assessments, and so on. So if you are a stakeholder, you need to join and you need to let the cities know what services you can offer, and you can charge for those services. They don't have to be free, but join this marketplace so that you can have access to these cities. So simply put, cities and human settlements cannot be inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable with disasters continuously chipping away at the hard-earned local development gains and continually locking people into poverty. So your support is needed. And again, in the spirit of multi-stakeholder engagement, I would request you to go to MCR 2030 and join up and work for, again, the 3 points which I'd like to re-emphasize before I close. Firstly, scale up support to cities to increase their capacity to engage with multiple stakeholders for implementation. Secondly, scale up support for cities to develop their own local project pipelines and their ability to access and manage finance. And thirdly, to scale up support for cities to broker and manage genuine and durable partnerships with stakeholders so that they can enable and implement resilience actions. So with this appeal and with this perspective, I would like to end today. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Sanjaya. And I would like to just highlight a few points you mentioned and the fact you gave that 90% of all disasters relate to climate change, and that is worst felt in the cities, and that we need to see opportunity in this challenge to do more to strengthen cities' resilience and to do more prevention efforts in order to save more life in future, decrease the damage, a decreased number of affected people, and avoid damages. With that in mind, I would like to invite our next speaker, Dr. Iyad Abumogli, who is a director of United Nations Environment Program Faith for Earth Initiative. Dr. Iyad Abumogli is the founder and director of the Faith for Earth Initiative, has more than 35 years of experience with international organizations, the private sector, and scientific institutions. Dr. Abumogli expertise focused on strategic planning, sustainable development, natural resources management, and knowledge and innovations. Dr. Abumogli is currently the lead principal advisor on engaging with faith-based organizations at UNEP. Previously, he held several leading positions, including the regional director and representatives of UNEP in West Asia, director of knowledge and innovation at UNDP Regional Office for the Arab States, senior environment advisor at UNDP Sub-Regional Resource Facility in Beirut, Global Practice Manager for Energy and Environment Group in New York, Assistant Resident Representatives in UNDP of UNDP in Jordan. Dr. Abumogli, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Armin. Good morning, good afternoon, colleagues and friends. Greetings of peace and prosperity. First, let me thank you for inviting me to speak at this important webinar on engaging academia and faith actors to strengthen cities' resilience. Brothers and sisters, when we think about cities, we just look around us and see the cement jungles we live in, the noisy streets, the polluted air, and the buzzing of people. And we might also think of the cultural role of these cities, who built them, and what great role they played over centuries. But we rarely think of the linkages between cities and our faith or religion, and how and what role religions play in their history and prosperity. It is amazing to know that cities in general, and some cities in particular by name, were mentioned in our holy books. For example, there are 28 verses in the Bible about cities or a certain city in particular. In the Holy Quran, cities or towns were mentioned 74 times. These sacred books also highlighted how God referred to our connection with cities. In Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 7, the Bible says, "Seek the welfare of the city where I have sent you into exile, and pray to the Lord on its behalf, for in its welfare you will have welfare." In the Quran chapter 2, verse 58, God says, "And remember when we said, enter this city and eat freely from wherever you please. Enter the gate with humility, saying, absolve us, we will forgive your sins and multiply the rewards for the good doers." The earliest mention of city building is that of the pre-Noah flood city of Enoch, which was built by Cain, son of Adam, according to Genesis 4:17. Religions are deeply rooted in the way cities were built and function or even look. Cities have always been designed with places of worship at their heart in the past. And today, you can find symbols of religions spread in every city in the world, from local churches to grand cathedrals, mosques, or temples, or even cemeteries. Religions serve a social goal too, bringing together city communities to celebrate, lament, remember, and provide support to those in need. But do we know the real power of influence that religions have on the cities and their dwellers? According to the new urban agenda, cities today occupy 2% of the total land. However, religions institutions own 8% of habitable land on earth. That is 4 times the area of all cities in the world. Globally, religious institutions own more than 50% of educational institutions, mostly in cities. These institutions shape the behavior of the people and thus impact our living and consumption patterns in the cities. In addition, religious institutions produce more books than all cities in Europe. This further shapes how we interact and live in cities. Today, there are more than 100 million churches, mosques, and temples in the world, mostly in cities. If you put them together as city buildings, they would be twice the size of New York City. These houses of worship provide basic shelter or spiritual refuge to the people. Others provide a substantial income from tourism for the city. But also, these houses of worship and religious schools are simply buildings that consume energy, consume water, and have environmental footprint. If managed appropriately, they would be great examples of how faith values of living gently on earth can be demonstrated. Many religious institutions use vans, buses, and automobiles to transport members and visitors of students to their schools. This massive fleet can either contribute to polluting cities if run on fuel, or contribute to a healthy air if turned to be electric. On the other hand, pilgrimage tourism, mainly to cities, constitutes an important component of the global economy and has contributed to the growth and development of cities. In 2018, for example, an estimated 1/3 of international tourists traveled for religious purposes, with around 450 million international flights were made to religious cities in sites in cities. This does not only affect the socio-economic conditions of cities, but providing employment, contributing to poverty alleviation, and generating foreign exchange earnings, but also affects the environment in these cities by increasing pollution levels and all the environmental issues associated with consumption practices of those tourists. However, this does not have to be the case if clean pilgrimage practices have been adopted. Brothers and sisters, we have a moral and spiritual responsibility in building and running our cities to be cities that promote cultural coexistence, resilience, and become inclusive places without discrimination. This is exactly what a smart city should be, not only relying on technology, but being smart in facilitating social cohesion. These are common values of different religions. Religions promote harmony with nature, regardless living in a city or a rural area. Religious values must inspire the design of our cities and not those cities affect our set of beliefs. Faith supports resilience in 2 main ways. First, personal strength and support from prayers, and second, community strength and support from committed citizens serving each other. People's resilience is imagined in many ways that were not only linked to the material, but also resonated with the spiritual understanding of the divine in disaster, psychological, which is feeling strong and not losing sense of oneself, and intellectual, which is increasing knowledge of hazards. faith, institutions, and ideas can help provide people with a sense of agency that can address risk in the face of future hazards. All in all, religious teachings and our spiritual values can play a major role in creating more sustainable and inclusive cities. The United Nations Environment Programme Faith for Earth initiative looks forward to engaging with other UN organizations and faith-based organizations to making the role of religions central in shaping the sustainable cities we aspire to have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abu Mowli. I would like just to highlight a few points you mentioned on outlining the importance of engaging faith actors in the process of cities resilience strengthening that also can bring to strengthen the process of social cohesion in the cities. Yes, and also the importance on the role of religious actors and faith-based organizations in providing needed supports and bringing needed resources in cities resilience strengthening process. With that in mind, now I would like to invite Dr. Sunisa Suktrak. Dr. Sunisa Suktrak is Associate Program Management Officer of Regional Office for Asia and the Pacific of the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction that is based in Bangkok, Thailand. She is a focal point of the Making Cities Resilient 2030 initiative for Asia and Pacific region. And she's, prior to joining UNDRR, she worked for UNDP Bangkok Regional Hub for 7 years, supporting regional program management for Sustainable Development Goals finance team, managing the climate finance program for Asia and the Pacific. She earlier worked with Asian Disaster Preparedness Center, ADPC, based in Thailand, and the Public Health in Emergency Team to enhance capacity building for communities and public health sector for 10 countries in Asia and the Pacific region. The floor is yours, Dr. Sunisa Suktrak.
Thank you, Arman, and thank you very much for these opportunities to be here. And this is my pleasure to share the experience and on the MCR 2030s and also the faith-based, the faith actors and role of academia to build or strengthening city resilience. So before we talking about their roles, I would like to brief a little bit about the Making City Resilient. So the next slide, please. What is MCR or Making City Resilient? So the journey is starting in 2010. The Making City Resilience or MCR campaign, it was launched to support the sustainable urban development, and from that, they encourage the city to sign up to this campaign and play very active roles on advocacy and promoting resilience activities to increase the local level understanding of the DRR. So since then, past to next 10 years, the Making City Resilience campaign was concluded with 4,360 cities signed up under previous campaign. And because of the resilience is a process, so it is necessary to move forward beyond creating awareness and advocacy to the implement under this new initiative. In 2018, the consultation for Making City Resilience 2030 occurred, and then 2 years later, in 2020, the launch of Making City Resilience 2030, it was happened in October. So Making City Resilience 2030, or we call as MCR 2030, this time it's aimed to ensure that the city will become more inclusive, safer, and resilient, also sustainable by 2030. So these initiatives contribute directly to the achievement of the global campaign, like SDG 11, Sendai Framework for the Paris Agreement, or even the new urban agenda. So in January this year, the Making City Resilience 2030 start operation. And as of November, this is the number as 2 days ago. As Sanjaya said, we have around like 560 cities join these initiatives. So next slide, please. And talking about Making City Resilience 2030, because of the process of the resilience, it needs some time. It needs a process. It needs multi-stakeholder to join. So we have strategic objective to divide city into 3 different groups. So the first group we call as the no-betters. This is for the city that might not have DRR plan in place, and we for us means like making city resilience. Try to improve the city to understanding the risks and also secure the commitment for to the local DRR, and also try to build the resilience, or we call as no better. And the second group is a city that might have a draft DRR plan in place and they want to finalize, or they still need a capacity building. So we will help them to strengthening the capacity to develop their own local strategy and plan to enhance the resilience, or we call as plan better. And last but not least, that the group of implement better means that we will assist the city or support the city to implement the local strategy and DRR plan. In the next slide, move forward from strategic objectives. We want to engage on the multi-stakeholder. So MCR 2030 also have the cross-cutting objective that we try to strengthening the vertical link between the national government, local government, and also association of the local government to work together. And also like the horizontal link that we try to strengthening all partners in the city, within the cities, to help to holding hand to work together to build more resilience. And then as we are aware that the city is the best teacher, so we try to connect city with city to learn and share from each other. So in the next slide, what we have under MCR, definitely like the first one is that, as I said, like the resilience is the roadmap. So it will be very useful for the cities to understand where they are, what they have to do, and what the next step or what the next action that they should take to build the resilience. So from that, as MCR 2030 is a global initiative. It's a global partnership that we ensure that the collaboration that we have, like it's a global, and try to make the Making City Resilience 2030 connect to the global policy. So if we scope narrower down to the regional level, so the regional network under MCR try to help the city to connect with city among one another, and try to link the city with technical expertise to support the cities. So under Making City Resilience initiative, we connect, we facilitate, like we try to build a peer-to-peer learning, we do the knowledge exchange, we have service, we have the knowledge guideline that is not only from the UNDR, but also from Making City Resilience 2030 partners. And one of the important tools is that we also have the online dashboard that the cities can use as a tool for tracking their progress or monitoring the progress. And with this dashboard, the city can also use as the registry to find the technical specialists to assist them along the roadmap. Next slide, please. And the key stakeholder under MCR 2030 were who they are. The first one is the core partner. Is that this is a global partner that working on providing the support on not only the strategic level, but also activity level for the cities. Like sometimes they can provide a peer-to-peer, or they can become the mentor for the cities. And because of the Making City Resilient is it cannot be done by city itself or UNDRR. This initiative is a co-created and co-delivered by different partners around the world, and scope narrow to the regional level. So we have the regional coordinating committees that can provide the technical and coordinating support for the cities in each region. That where they can there might be like some UN agency or international organization, for example, like RRCAP, like ADB, ADPC, ICLE, IFRC, etc. And the supporting entities, so it can be NGO, CSO, research institutes, media, academia, or faith actors, or any other actor that can provide advisory technical support or coordinating support globally and regionally. And the service can be part of the in-kind contribution. And the next group is the private sector and specialist service provider, or SSP, that this kind of group then can provide a special or specific technical support that can charge fee to the cities. And last but not least, one of the important actors is that the national government and association of municipalities, that they can play the key roles, the vital roles to supporting the local government on the development or the implementation of the DRR and resilience strategy. And they can also work as a correlation with other network to help the city to scaling up the impact of the MCR 2030. Next slide, please. So move to the role of academia. As we know, yes, well, the academia, they can provide the capacity building to build the future DRR practitioners. And then they can, in some universities, they might have a lot of experience or some sophisticated scientific equipment that sometimes, like even the national government doesn't have that. So the role of these university or academia can use these advanced technologies to help the national government to use these tools in practical world, and this can be used as a technical input for government to or for the city to make a decision. For example, like the risk informed that can be used by the cities or by the national government to developing the DRR plan or do the decision-making process. And the long-term sustainability of impact means that, well, in some DRR project or program, that when it's until the end of the program, so the activities need to be ends, and in case that if project or program have opportunities to coordinate or work with academia, so academia can continue doing the capacity building or to develop the knowledge further to make more sustainabilities. Definitely that the academia can provide the knowledge and research. It can be like a new knowledge, or it can be like a knowledge that they can transfer from the academic network. And moreover, like the universities can also use the technical inputs and also like analytical overview, which they can adapt to the local context of the cities to build more resilient, to make it more suitable to the cities. And last but not least, that they can serve as a bridge. They can coordinate with communities, national, local government, international partners, or any stakeholder. They can use it for network, like for example, like alumni or the university network for disaster risk management, for example. Like during the disaster response, for example, like they can bringing the technical experience, technical expertise for their network to help the cities. Next slide, please. And the role of the faith actor is similar to the academia, that they can working with different stakeholders at the local, national, and international level to provide assistance to the city to build more resilient. The first one is that the strong point of the faith actor is they earn trust. Well, they earn trust from the local government, from the communities, from international organizations. And this happen especially in the provincial level. So from that, they can earn the importance of cooperation. They can increase the multi-stakeholder coordination between all parties, and they can also connect with other communities using their own network. So for like when they connect, they can like do the internal or external, which can like to mobilize aid or for the emergency response. that we can help the cities during the disaster. And they can raise awareness and build resilience culture was that because they can manage risks and vulnerabilities, they have quick access to the disaster area. They have to recognize the strengths and weakness of the local area of the cities. So if they are part of, or they can work with the provincial NDMO or national government, so it can like work together like, to build more resilience for the cities. And definitely that the faith actors can provide psychological and emotional support, like Armin mentioned before, like when the disaster occurs or after the disaster occurs. So they can provide the optimistic and emotional support to overcome the experience of the disaster. And from that, like they can also help the community to move forward to the next step of recovery and reconstruction, like faster. And to contribute to the disaster risk reduction, response, and recovery. Because in some countries, the faith actors play a very vital role, and they have a great potential in disaster management. But mostly it's on a response and recovery principle, like some faith-based agency in Indonesia, like they play a very vital role after the tsunami in 2012. And further than that, like the faith actors can work on a rehabilitation program. They can work with an international agency to recover, to encourage the communities to mitigate risk or reduce conflict in the communities. And they can even like work in the preparedness process, like work with the national government to provide a roadmap to encourage the community for making resilience, because they understand the cities, they understand the local context. So last but not least, that they can help on capacity building, especially for the communities. So if they work with the provincial NDMO or national government or local governments, so they can help on implement the DR policy with adapt to the local context. And faith actors in some country that they already have tools, resource, or network in place, so they can if they got trained as a training for trainer or like a first responder or shelter management, so they can help or they can train the community further. So these are the sample of the roles of academia and faith actors. So yeah, it's definitely that both of them like play a very vital role to build the resilience to the cities. So thank you very much for your attention. So if you have any questions or if you want to know more about the making city resilience in Asia Pacific, so please feel free to contact me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sunisa Suktrak, for very useful and informative presentation you made. I would like really to pick up the point you made on introducing the importance of Making Cities Resilient 2030 global campaign and the importance the campaign is paying on applying multi-stakeholder engagement approach in any of these global campaign capacity development activities and providing needed materials and resources to the cities and guidance on how to strengthen city resilience. With this, I would like to give now floor and introduce you our next speaker, Dr. Hijratul Magiforu. Dr. Magiforu is a program manager for environment and climate change sector at the Nahdlatul Ulama Disaster Risk Management and Climate Change Institute. She is an initiator of Pazantrin Nijau Green Islamic Boarding School and the Eco-Peace Movement, Interreligious Learning on Environment. Ms. Magiforu graduated from Leiden University in Islamic Studies with research on ecofeminism and from Uyama Women Organization on Environment Program. Dr. Magiforu, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Arman. Before I continue the explanation, so I will inform you that I'm not a doctor, so I'm still in a master, a graduate master in the Leiden University. So hopefully next year I will continue my study. So thank you very much for the opportunity in this very great forum. And it is a very honor for me to involve in a very insightful forum, especially for my institution, Nahdlatul Ulama. So before I explaining about the program, EcoPeace program that I mentioned before, I will let you know about the background of the program of the program. So I'm working in the Nahdlatul Ulama, especially in the disaster management and climate change of Nahdlatul Ulama institution. So Nahdlatul Ulama is the one, maybe as you know, Nahdlatul Ulama is one of the biggest Islamic organization in Indonesia. Nahdlatul Ulama claim themselves they have like around more than 30 million members around Indonesia. So it's quite big followers. It's quite big organization, and it's found at 1926. So I don't know what years. But LPBA or Disaster Management and Climate Change Institution of Nahdlatul Ulama itself found at 2010. So it's like more than 70 years after Nahdlatul Ulama established. Nahdlatul Ulama then have disaster management and climate change institution. So it's quite new institution or organization. That's why we are still learning from other institution, other community, and especially other institution that already focusing on the issues of climate change, disaster, and etc. Then I'm in disaster management and climate change of Nahdlatul Ulama. I'm responsible for the environment and climate change issues. So the other issues are disaster management, and another one is research and other. And I'm responsible for the environmental issues and climate change. So because Nahdlatul Ulama itself, the biggest resources of Nahdlatul Ulama is the pesantren or Islamic boarding school. We have around more than 100 Islamic boarding school around Indonesia under the Nahdlatul Ulama. So we can imagine. And the problem of the pesantren or Islamic boarding school, most of them have a problem in environmental issues, and like lack of sanitation and garbage management, etc. Then I began to initiate the pesantren hijau or green pesantren, and the program itself really a voluntary program. I mean, like no agency supported to this program. So disaster management and climate change, Nahdlatul Ulama institution just support this program by themselves, but by ourselves. We initiate this program with 10 pesantren in the cities of Indonesia, around Indonesia, most of them around Java. And then we build the indicator of the green pesantren. We have like 5 indicator, like the pesantren hijau should have trash management and good sanitation, and then green area, and then simple development, simple renewable energy, and then environment and climate change knowledge and awareness. So as you know, pesantren basically sometimes only focusing on the Islamic studies or religious studies. So then LPBI or disaster management and climate change of Nahdlatul Ulama introduce the environment and climate change issue to the pesantrens and bring other indicators, and it is quite success. More than half of the pesantren hijau members already implement the policy, pesantren policy. It is quite a strong impact to the pesantren because we directly engage to the kiai or the pesantren owner or the Islamic leaders in the pesantren. So the kiai, the Islamic leader in the pesantren, have the power, have the power to influence other, not only for the pesantren stakeholders like students and then teachers, but also the parents of the students and then the community around pesantren. Some pesantren have more than 5,000 students that live in that building. You can imagine how strong the power, the influence, the kiai or the Islamic leaders to the community. Then when we approach the kiai, the ulama, about introducing the green pesantren, green idea, the environmental issue, then some kiais really support this program, but some not, because in pesantren they have much activities and much business around there, and more than half of the member, the initiative of the pesantren hijau, like 8 pesantren, are strong supported by the ulama, the kiais. And some of them, the kiai have implemented the environmental policy, like some one pesantren using renewable energy for electricity, and some pesantren also have on trash management, the initiated by the santri or the students, and some pesantren also have community forests in the area of the pesantren, and other pesantren have a green area and then simple renewable energy. Then because the success of the green pesantren, and then I joined the Kaisit Fellows, and I inspiring by the Kaisit when I met people from different religion. I think I should develop this kind of environmental issues in other perspective of religion. And because and also because I found the research for our partner, the local NGOs, they did the research for the young people, religious young people in Indonesia, regarding about the religion and climate change in young people's views. And the result of the research quite impressive, because I present, like in my presentation, like 44% they believe that climate change is an act of God or punishment for sins. It's mean that young people, religious people in Indonesia, as you know, Indonesia is quote unquote religious countries. The citizens are have strong at least 6 religions in there. So 44 people or young people believe that climate change is an act of God or punishment for sins. It means most of them still related to climate change or the environmental issues with religious views, religious issues. And also, it is also very interesting. Then more than 50% of young people believe in religious leaders like kiai or ulama or priest or monk or others religious leaders, then followed by the government and scientists regarding how to overcome climate change. So, I'm quite shocked that young people still believe in the religious leaders. So that's why I'm quite optimistic to build, to broader this program to young people, to other across religion. Then I developed the EcoPeace program, EcoPeace program or interreligious learning on environment. I open the information for the young people in Indonesia across religion across Indonesia. So we got only in a week we got more than 300 young people submitted or register for this program. But we have we have limitation for the quota for the participants, so we just selected from the more than 300 registers. We just selected 50 young people around Indonesia, representing the young people. They have power in their community, like in organization, in the school, in the university, or in the religious organization, or in Islamic boarding school, because some of the participants are also coming from the Islamic boarding school and then a Christian boarding school. It's quite excited. So the participants are young people, the age between 17 and 20 years old, across Indonesia, from Papua to Aceh. Yeah, we have all the participants around Indonesia, with and then from the small islands in Indonesia that also already impacted by the climate change effect. So yeah, it's quite quite success for us, for the team of the EcoPeace. And then the program itself, like it is quite different from the pesantren hijau or green pesantren that I mentioned before. The program itself conducting in online because the pandemic. And then the program, we have like 4 series of the program. The first, it is explaining in the next slide, please. So the program content, like we have 4 series. The first series is about EcoPeace workshop. So this workshop is about religion and environment. So we are inviting all the religious leaders, or at least religious the Indonesian government consider 6 religions, so Christian, Catholic, and Islam, Buddhist, Hindus, and also Confucianism. And also we inviting Judaism, because I have a new friend from the Kaisit Fellow, so I invite the Jews speakers to also become the speaker in the EcoPeace program. And it's quite exciting for the participant. It is a new experience for them, for the young Indonesia, to meet the Jews. And then it is also the quite new for them to understand, to know about the religious or the Jews' views on the environmental, on the environment. So the second series is EcoPeace writing and content creative, because our output of the program is how the young people can become a campaigner in their community, in their local area, and maybe in around the globe, because they use the social media. So we train them how to build, how to make the good writing and then content creative regarding environment and then climate change issues. And the third series is about EcoPeace virtual field trip. We conducted this virtual field trip to the church that has a priest. They built the green green how to say, green devotion for the Christianity. So they present they present online in his church, and for the member who have the environmental activities in the church. And then the second speakers from Muslim, from the ulama, they have also environmental initiative in her Islamic boarding school. And then the last series are EcoPeace Festival. So after the participant got the training of the writing training, and then awareness about the religion and environment, then they challenged by us to develop the writing and then content creative, and then they should upload it to their social media or their school or their university platform to campaign the environment and climate change. So yeah, we have a festival, we have competition in the writing contest, and then also in the social media campaign. Then yeah, it is our challenge how about the sustainability, because the program is quite new, just ended in this week. So I do not know how to indicate that our program is have a big impact, and also how our program have a good sustainability. But we already develop how to make this kind of program sustain. So we discuss with the participant. We are still in the WhatsApp group to communicate, to maintain the communication, and then to maintain our program. So and then the other is how to collaborate with the other participant. So we encourage them to have environmental project collaboration with one participant with a different religion maybe, or across the location. And then we also developing platform for the EcoPeace. We start next month to launch this. So, and then managing by the participant, by the alumni of EcoPeace. And we hope our program have an impact, at least about behavior change of the participants, and also some of the participants that we assess, we have from the survey that they have like personal and then institutional follow-up planning after the project. So I hope this follow-up planning will give a big impact to our program. I think that's all. That's all from my presentation. So I'm very happy if all of you have a question or a comment about my presentation. Thank you. Give to you, Armin. Still muted?
Sorry, I didn't see. Yeah, just would like to thank you, Makfiru, very much for your presentation and giving us a very good example, sharing examples and on how faith-based organizations effectively engage communities and students and parents of green Islamic boarding schools in efforts of addressing climate change and engaging in climate change activities. Thank you for this, and now I would like to introduce you Her Eminence Pandit Krishna Kripa Dasa, who is Hindu priest and president of Hindu Federation of Spain, who will speak about the role of faith actors in preserving nature and environment. Pandit Krishna Kripa Dasa was born in 1970 in Ceuta, Spain. He is a son of an Indian Hindu father and a Spanish Catholic mother, and grew up in interreligious and intercultural family. He's fluent in Spanish, English, and Hindi. In 1985, Mr. Krishna Kripa officially started following Hindu religion, and in 1994 he was ordained as a Purohit, Hindu priest. He spent 6 years in India studying the Hindu holy scripts and how to officiate the different rituals and ceremonies. To date, he has written 18 books about Hinduism and is a co-author of another 5 titles. He is the current president of the Hindu Federation of Spain and a member of the Hindu Forum of Europe. He is a fellow of the CAICID 2021 European cohort and an activist of interreligious and intercultural dialogue. The floor is yours, Your Eminence, Pandit Krishna Kripadasa.
Good morning, good afternoon to everybody. Thank you very much to the organizers for giving me this opportunity to be part of this wonderful webinar. Well, let's start saying a few words about how Hinduism believes about environmental protection. We consider the Earth planet, as a goddess. We call Bhumi Devi, and we respect her as a goddess. So we have a quote in many of our holy scriptures about how we must respect, protect, and preserve the Mother Earth, because she's taking care of all of us, independently of our belief and religions. And it is really important that how we influence people in a positive way. As my other colleagues already mentioned, how still religion have the power to influence people in a good way. When we talk about environmental pollution or natural disasters, sometimes people still, they don't believe the scientific, they don't believe the ecological groups, but still they have some respect for what religious people says. And in Hinduism, we see that the natural disasters are caused by humans. And it's like nature is responding to the abuse and the damage that we cause to the Mother Earth, taking all her resources, sometimes in a very unlimited way because of the greediness of the human being. So when we see natural disaster, we consider it's part of karma, the law of action and reaction. So we must educate people in how to behave and protect the environment, because we have only one planet, the Mother Earth, and we all live together. So we have to start teaching people from childhood to youngsters to adult people how to be more conscious about nature, even if you're living in a city. So religions has to be a resource for people by giving access to networks of support and by providing ways of coping with disaster. Religions provide framework for understanding, interpreting, preparing, and responding to disasters. So this is what we're trying to do from the Hindu Federation of Spain and also from Hindu Forum of Europe. And the religion should provide, of course, spiritual solace, spiritual counseling, but also social, psychological, and material help. When people suffer from natural disaster, like we can see now in Spain, we're having an island, Palma, with a huge volcano, is wiping out the entire island. So we are giving moral support, we are giving spiritual help, but also we are trying to coordinate with people from other religions, how to help those people. And of course, we have to also teach people how to be more conscious about respecting, because sometimes when we celebrate the religious gatherings and we give a meal, we're trying to teach advice to the temples to please use eco-friendly materials like the dishes, the cups, and everything. Don't be so polluted. And we have a lot of tradition in Hinduism that after using flowers and other material, the worship people throw into the rivers, throw into the sea, thinking that it's not going to pollute. So we are trying to teach people also how to behave. Please don't throw anything in the water of the sea, of the river. And so it's a way of re-educating the people. It is really important to cooperate with the government and also with the NGOs. And of course, a very important role is the interreligious dialogue. Now, with the help of CAICIT, We already published a book in Spanish, our language, called Nature and Spirituality, where we compile the teaching of 9 different religions, what the scripture says about nature preservation, and educating people to be strong. We are talking a lot about resilience, how to be strong, how to cope with the disaster coming from nature. Also, now we are seeing a lot of humanitarian catastrophes, like people trying to cross the borders of other countries out of desperation, how we cope with these people, how we have to react, how we have to also help this kind of people, at the same time cooperate with the governments. So religion is really important. It has a very important role in how to educate people, taking care of nature, taking care of the preservation, and helping each other. And in Spain, we are doing through the interreligious network at the European level. Also, we work with European nation and other religion institutions. And it is quite important that still religions play a key role in the life of people. Like yesterday, it was published a poll in Spain, a public poll, saying that 40% of the people who don't want to be vaccinated for COVID are non-Catholic. So in this way, we consider that they're pointing people who are not Catholic from other religions, who are more ascetic about vaccination. But from Hinduism, from Hindu Federation of Spain, we publish a statement at the beginning of the vaccination, advising the people. We can't force, even the government in Spain can force people to get vaccinated, but we advise the people, please, for your goodness, for the goodness of the other people, to be kind, please take the vaccination. So in this sense, we can see how we can also create, and most of the Hindus in Spain are already vaccinated. We are also trying to encourage people from different faiths. So we can, from the religious group, we can influence in a positive way people to take all the measurements against the COVID, to prevent disaster, how to react to disaster, make people more helpful to each other, and cooperation is very important. And of course, as religious leaders, we have the responsibility to learn from big organizations like United Nations and different organizations, and take also the help and the training for institutions like ICIT, who provides us with the tools and resources to learn more, and the use respectful and responsible use of the media to create a nice environment for the people to work together against the environmental pollution, the hate of speech, any trouble we try to solve together with the science, with the political leaders, with the social leaders. But we think that religions have important role to work, and I really appreciate that in this important webinar that we are discussing today, you give a voice to the religious leader, religious institution, and I'm really happy that you invite me. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Eminence, and I just would like to pick up a few points you made, that religious leaders provide vital support, vital moral support, spiritual help, raising awareness, as well as teaching people to be more cautious and use eco-friendly materials. You also highlighted the importance for faith-based organizations and religious leaders to greater cooperate with governments at all levels and the NGOs. in strengthening cities and communities resilience. You also mentioned the importance of using the dialogue as a tool, interreligious and intercultural dialogue as a tool in this process. Thank you very much. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Kai Natavikorn Pantuvongpakdi, who is EPICNet Asia Coordinator based in Thammasat University Research Unit in Urban Future and Planning. Dr. Natavikorn, the floor is yours.
You can hear me, right? Yes.
Yes.
I would like to share something very quickly. So, everybody, and I know today we are going to talk a little bit more about faith, but my presentation, it's not really going to be 100% as much about faith. I did something in my research, which but today I'm going to talk about one model, which is being introduced in many countries in Asia that trying to engage the university and the city together in order to solve problem that many cities are facing. So I actually make an application right here. Let's see, you can see right now. Okay, so this program is called the Big N program, the Educational Partnership for Innovation in Communities. So basically, we receive a lot of support from various programs such as the Ministry of the Environment, Government of Japan, Driving Earth Exchange, Second Nature, Global Adaptation Network, the UN Environment Program, UNEP, ICLEI, STAR International, and UNFCCC as well that support this program. It first started in the United States. It became very successful, so it's being introduced to Asia very recently. You might know, we have already come to an era that most of the countries, most of the cities, many cities are struggling in trying to achieve the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goal, the 17 global goals. So we realize that what many cities lack, whether it's capacity, knowledge, or like know-how, university have in abundance. And in many cities, there are so many universities, you have so many students, they have access capacity, they have unlimited access to knowledges, and these people, they're constantly looking for ways to improve the cities and also gaining more of their knowledge. So I understand you were like, but so many programs in many universities are already doing that. So what is different in the big model? So basically, we are thinking that if the university already teach certain courses, and there's so many university instructors that already, like teaching the students, and there's so many local projects. How about we integrate all of them together? Let the city, reveal what are the problem they are facing, what do they want. After talking to the university, then the university can find the most specific costs to fit the need of the city. So instead of implementing the new project, instead of, like creating a new cost, you integrate it into the existing courses. I'm going to give you an example. So I think this is a very good model because you save time, you save a lot of energies, and you can continue doing research and engage students. So for instance, lecturer in chemistry class, you have to teach student about analyzing contamination. So how about, like if the city have a problem with their water sources, like in the river or in the canals, how about asking students to collect the samples from the river, analyze it in the lab, teach them how to do it. Once the student get the result, you give it to the cities. You save time, you let students know that what they are doing in class, and not only for scores, but not only for the grade, but it's also helping the community that they are living in. So the big model is unique, it's large, matching its local issue and existing causes. It can be for all problems that many cities are facing. It's based on existing community projects, existing faculty and courses, multidisciplinary, greater scale, and we call it the win-win-win solution. So, as I have mentioned, it first started in the United States, in University of Oregon, and it involves Sustainable City Year program where the universities of Oregon in Eugene partner with the city of Salem in trying to solve the problems. So these are some of the examples. So in Thailand as well, we're trying to bring this program in Asia and how we can integrate programs in solving problems. Sustainability is one of them. Disaster adaptation is one of many programs that many cities are facing. How can we integrate that? This is something very interesting. So we follow 5 elements. We respect existing administration structures and responsibilities. We create genuine partnerships with local governments. We intentionally aim at improving quality of life. We prioritize solutions rooted in sustainability, resilience, and progress. So in this manner, if the cause is on religions, or we even have religious institutions, it can be involved in this program as well. Focus on community identified, driven, and evaluated contribution to the community. Catalyze many discipline and large number of courses, students, and hours. So these are some examples of the university in the United States and also in Brazil, in Mexico, Israel, and in Africa. So basically Kenya, Zambia, and South Africa that are already employing this model. So example of the projects, so such as informal settlement sustainability, teaching courses such as survey communication, GIS, for instance, watershed and rural health. So this can involve something like communication, marketing landscape, and architecture. Air quality, urban health, where you can involve classes on public health, marketing, and campaigns. So these are relevant to business courses, for instance. Economic revitalization, where you can involve survey method, business administration, business analytics, for instance. Now, as I have mentioned, this program we just started this year in Asia. So we pilot in 11 universities in, I think, 5 countries, sponsored by UNEP and also Star International. So we have one in Chiang Mai in Thailand, Thammasat University, AIT, and three in Malaysia, University Pendidikan Sultan Idris, University Kuala Lumpur, University Science Malaysia, one in Vietnam, An Giang University, one in Indonesia, Polytechnic Negeri Manado, and close to Manado, there was actually another city called Tomohon, which was interested, but the head of the city was contacted by he has COVID, so he couldn't apply on time. So, but we will continue to help them as well. He is interested in learning how to solve or reduce the problem of greenhouse gas emissions. We have 2 in the Philippines, which is in Los Baños and Iloilo Science Technology, and 1 in Nepal, University of Kathmandu as well. So these are the extent so far. We have some interested institutions, which hopefully they will join in the future, especially in China, Pakistan, and India, which are huge countries. So I already gave you an example of what happened in Chiang Mai city. So students went to collect the water sample in mode, analyze it in the class, and send the data back to the city. And another very interesting project come from Vietnam, because Vietnam, southern part of Vietnam, which is the Mekong Delta, suffering from a lot of flooding incidents. So students will get to learn smart water, part of the Smart Water City program. Students will get to learn GIS planning and disaster adaptations. Also learn about the water causes, understanding relation between countries, because as you know, the Mekong River flows 6 countries and before it's actually eventually reached Vietnam. So it's very important to understand this as well. International collaborative. Similarly, in the Philippines, which is interested in flood management, in the city called Calamba City, which is very close to Metro Manila, also suffering from flooding as well. As you already know, in the Philippines and also in Vietnam, they suffer from typhoon and flooding and a lot of disasters as well. So it's very important that students know about this. Also, lastly, I leave this last because AIT also get involved. AIT is involved with Taglaw municipality in Pathum Thani province, which is going to be focusing on better waste management, reducing greenhouse gases, and engaging with the graduate students. As you already know that AIT is a graduate student institutions. Now, The PIC model is not student labor for non-academic work, and it's very important to keep in mind that students are not consultant. So they can help cities. City can employ consultants, and student can help this consultant, or student can help collect data or do day-to-day works for the cities. And this is part of their learning experience, but it's still very important to understand that student is still student. They cannot be used to make any decision. Any decision still, you still have to make it by the cities, by all the people who are responsible for solving all the problems. So it's a pre-concept consultant work, scale down positive attention, break down silos and engage broad publics. Workforce development to local government is scalable and is supposed to be fun for all. It's supposed to be based on existing resources and administrative structures. So as I already mentioned, we kickstarted 11 programs, and if you're interested, you can learn more about EPIC and programs, epicn.org, or contact me by my email. Now, stop sharing. So where does this program leave us to kind of religious society? As you know, religion or faith have a lot of say in terms of disaster management. So you can always integrate this to the city. We still finding ways in integrating people from different faiths in order to, like solving a lot of city problem as well. And I know this is not the time for Q&A, but it kind of linked to my presentation as well. I see one question regarding about faith in Thailand in terms of trying to make people aware and, like adapt to disaster. So in Thailand, there are learning institution which is to train from religious. It's from a monk. It's actually in a temple, and we also have universities. So there were also university that's supposed to train monk, but lay people, normal people can attend as well. So I know one person, he actually working on solving the SDGs. So thinking about linking this to helping the city as well. And there are also monks in Thailand who are very active in trying to solve various problems within the country. One monk in Bangkok actually trying to promote the SDG within the cities, within the country, trying to link people from different cities together in order to promote the SDG as well. So these are some of the roles that I see that religious institutions, religious schools can play a role as well. We don't really have I think we do have Islamic University in southern part of Thailand as well. I still haven't really talked to them about that yet. We do have a big university in southern part of Thailand that engage with a lot of 3 southern provinces which have large Muslim populations, and we are trying to engage them in trying to solve the problems existing in that particular provinces as well. So these are some of the programs, some of the model that we hope can elevate trying to solve the problem and can integrate the faith institution into the metric as well. So here is pretty much my presentation. Sorry, it might not really 100% relevant to today webinar that much, but I hope it's kind of add something different and to update about how cities and universities are trying to help solve a lot of problems and try to make cities become much more sustainable. Back to you, Amin. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Pantuvong Party. Actually, just to remind you and participants that the focus of today's webinar are dual. It's how to engage academia, specifically local universities and faith actors. That includes faith-based organizations and religious leaders at all levels in strengthening cities and communities' resilience to climate and disaster risk. So it was your presentation was very relevant, and I would like to thank you again for sharing EPICNet model and methodology on how to engage the local universities, how and establish partnership and support cities government efforts in strengthening cities' resilience through engagement of students, engagement of professors, and providing resources of the universities to strengthen cities' efforts in strengthening resilience to climate and disaster risk. So thank you again. And now, last but not the least, I would like to invite Dr. Yukiko Yamada Morovic, Dr. Yukiko is a technical director for external engagement and programming livelihood sector at World Vision. In her role, she provides technical guidance and overall support for World Vision's environment stewardship and climate action. She is also a member of the International Partnership for Religion and Sustainable Development Coalition, which is called PART, representing World Vision Organization. The floor is yours, Dr. Yukiko, and I think before she starts, she would like to share with you a short video, after which she will make a short presentation to share World Vision experience in this area.
Thank you so much. I think this Trisha, she's the young activist from Bangladesh. I think what she said covers everything. So I wonder whether I can share the screen now. Great. So I think my session is in a way like an annex to what Trisha said. And it was very interesting to listen to all the other stakeholders and how important it is to connect the dots and different actors can contribute and building on each other's strengths. So as we are listening to, and I think it's very important to listen to directly the voices of children, especially from the most fragile pockets of urban hotspots. I would like to add just one more statistics that Armin mentioned at the beginning of this webinar. I would like to say more than 350 million children are living in urban slums and informal settlements. And this population is continuing to grow. And they are in a way, these children are the least responsible of this current climate change. And yet they are the ones who suffer most from the repercussions. So it's very important to include these children as in this decision-making processes. And Nomundari, another young leader for us, she spoke at the latest COP26 in Glasgow, but she left very strong message. It's our earth, our health, but your climate change. We don't want children to say this kind of statement. We want them to be part of the solution making process. And in this process, I am painfully aware the importance of the role of faith. Already other colleagues mentioned the importance of faith in this social behavior change process, and also building social cohesion and making the air of conversation and dialogue. So World Vision has this program called Channels of Hope, which is a curriculum, faith-based curriculum that's integrated in our Care for Creation and all the other learning modules for the young adolescents and young people. We do have a city-wide approach, like all the other colleagues mentioned, and it's very important that children are part of these clubs and associations, neighborhood groups where they can share all the concerns and then promote their own ideas. And it's very important they are empowered to be able to say their opinions. And it's very important in this context, both individual and collective actions are key to this urban climate resilience. In a more concrete way, in the sort of technical manners, what we are doing at the moment is very important, this community-based disaster risk management system that also includes early warning systems and all kinds of DRR activities and training. In the end, training is a key for establishing a very efficient and effective disaster risk management. And waste management and green jobs are very much linked, and especially in the urban crowded areas, these frontline workers and services together with the local government is very important to establish. And we also have energy efficient technology introductions because air pollution is a serious problem, especially for children with their developmental phase. So we do have these interventions, and critically, climate empowerment is the word in that UNFCCC uses, but climate and environmental education and awareness raising. That we are fully aware that faith actors play a huge role because they have a huge influence and moral authority to explain why we should care for each other and why we should care for our planet. And all this is crucial to have an integrated programming approach so that we can build on each segment. Each one of these may be a small intervention, but all together and working together with the partners, with academia, with the faith actors and community members have a triple effect. It has a much bigger effect as an intervention in the urban climate resilience. So I just listed some of the sweet spots or intersecting points, how it's important in urban fragile context, not just urban, but the most fragile countries and urban slums and informal settlements, and how community-led solution is critical, and how faith leaders can play a role because it can create peace-building situation in a fragile context, and how the youth-led local climate governance monitoring, because government has to be accountable. Then, as Tricia mentioned, they don't feel safe. The girls do not feel safe. So any violence against children while addressing climate change. And all these points, all these connecting points are heavily interrelated. So I think it is possible, and we have to work like this, all this integrated approach to address this complex climate change problems. So I am aware of the time constraints, so I'll stop here. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Yukiko, for very good video and very good presentation. I see we are running out of the time, but I still want that we use the opportunity to take maybe one or two questions. I see some participants already answered on the Q&A box to some of the questions. But I would like to thank you them for this, that they will answer during the session in writing. But and now let me put few questions and open the floor for discussion to participants, to our speakers. Just a second. Okay, there is a question from Heru Santoso, who says, thank you for your informative presentation. I think the question is to Sunisa. Suktrak, you mentioned that one activity in making cities resilient is developing dashboard to monitor progress. Do you mean this is to monitor the progress of cities in improving their resilience? Do you have any tools for measuring cities resilience that you can share? Sunisa, I see you answered, but would you like to a little bit elaborate on this before we move to the next session? Next question, thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the questions. From my answer, like the aim of the making city resilient to 2030 is not, we will not create another burden for the cities, like just to develop any reported. But because of the key of the dashboard is that we want to have as a template for the city, as a platform for the city to learn. So in the dashboard, we have a milestone for the city to pass from one stage to the different one. And in order to pass from like state, like for example, like the state as no better to into the plan better one. So they have to finish some activity. For example, like they might, the city might create a training, which can be like a support from UNDRR or even like any other MCR 2030 partners for their assistance, and like to build capacity building or the DR planning, and building from that, they can the city can just like share the training reports or share the agenda or methodologies in there, so that other cities can learn from what the activities that they have done and then pass to another level. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think also if you have more questions to our to our speakers, please send them to our email addresses we put in our flyers. We would be happy to direct it to other questions that they will respond. So before closing the webinar, I would like to kindly ask you to take 2 minutes of your time to complete the evaluation form, which will be posted in the box by Asmita, our colleague. And with that in mind, I would like to thank you all very much, to thank you, our distinguished speaker, for sharing their perspective and their organization's experience, sharing the case studies from the region and their programs. I also would like to thank very much our participants who were part of these discussions and who attended our event, and also to ask them to follow up our notification for other MCR 2000 series webinars. Thank you all very much. Please kindly complete the evaluation form, and I would like to wish you a very good rest of the day. Have a very good day. Thank you and goodbye.